We're going to be reading from Matthew chapter 5, verse 7. And the verse is, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall be filled." Excuse me, for they shall receive mercy. Still on last week. The title of my message is Worthy Mercy. Last week I focused on hunger and thirst, and I didn't speak too much about righteousness, but I wanted to save it for today to juxtapose righteousness with mercy. Somebody please turn the light up a little bit, or I'll flip them on myself because I am talking to a dark room right now. Thank you. The word for justice is something that in the Hebrew has this idea of a sound and a firm foundation. Justice literally means in the Hebrew this idea of having something you put your feet on that's sturdy, that's stable. I think the opposite, if we could imagine something that's not stable, would be something like having your feet and standing up on a boat, a small boat, a rowboat, or something like that. And when you get on those and the waves are going just a little bit, it's very easy to tip over. When people personify justice and create statues of justice, justice is generally portrayed as a woman blindfolded. You've probably seen these type of statues. And the blindfold is this idea that justice should be blind, should be impartial, that there should be no consideration of the person's rank or politics or money or power or ethnicity or race or socioeconomic status, that she should be blindfolded. And in one hand with justice, she's usually holding a scale, the old-fashioned scales where you sort of have a known weight, and then it's got the lever, and then on the other side is the item being weighed, and the idea of weighing out justice. And in the other hand was generally a sword. And so this is how justice is portrayed. Now we know that there are miscarriages of justice, and that justice is often not blind, and that there are things that happen that show us, and I got involved in watching, for some reason, the Karen Reed trial, and there was some obvious misjustice going on there. But justice is something that it's amazing to me, and I only realized it when I was really reflecting on this, how the Lord, when He shared the Beatitudes with us, He went from justice immediately as the next beatitude to mercy. And so whenever God speaks about justice, mercy is around the corner. And mercy is waiting. Mercy immediately follows justice in God's righteousness and the goodness of God. And when righteousness is sought, and when righteousness is chased after, even that, it should be done in the spirit of mercy. Now, it's an interesting thing, this idea of justice or righteousness and mercy juxtaposed. As we've gone through the Beatitudes, if you've been here, we talked about the first Beatitude of poor in spirit. And if it was a ladder, it's the first step down before you go up, and to the mourning, and to the meek, and to hunger and thirsting for righteousness. But all of these have to do with our relationship with God. And when you get to meekness and hunger and thirsting, there can be some component of relationship with other people. But when you get to merciful, this is 100% to do with our relationship with other people. We can't be merciful to God. He is without sin. And so when we're talking about blessed are the merciful, now we're talking about something where we bestow a benefit to somebody else. The other ones are us being equipped by God. For what purpose? By the fifth beatitude we see. okay? It's not just that we're meek and we have restrained power and someone insults us and we don't say anything back. You see what I'm saying is that this time now, when we get to this beatitude, we've pivoted. It's the pivot in the Beatitudes where we're actually showing benefit, we're blessing other people in these Beatitudes. The Beatitude of Mercy is about really, do we care? Do we care about other people? Now, of course, ultimately, the personification of mercy is Jesus Christ. And I'm going to speak about that more at the end, that if we need to understand and want to understand mercy, we have to understand who Jesus Christ is. But mercy is a word that's still out there. It's funny how certain Christian words have been phased out, but when I was a kid and we played a sport, if you were playing baseball and you got to a certain score, you were just destroying the other team, there would be what's called the mercy rule, where the game would be cut short. Or if you were playing soccer and you were up by a certain amount of points, you wouldn't go past midfield, just kick the ball down to their end. And the idea was that you weren't to humiliate your opponent. There was a game, there was a couple years ago where I think it was a basketball team and the coach egged on his players and the girls won something like 96-4 or something. And people talked about that it's possible to be a poor sport when you're winning, not just a poor sport when you're losing. And so this idea of the mercy rule or having mercy, just it's out there still, that there's an idea that people have dignity, that people have worth, that people, are made in the image of God as we transition to those of us with the Christian faith, and understanding that each person, has a mother, has life, God made, and by that alone should be allowed to receive mercy. Now, when I was studying Merciful, the first day I really just looked at mercy as this idea of withholding punishment. When I looked at mercy as just withholding punishment, it was something easy for me to grasp and wrap myself around. But when I looked at the word that Jesus used to describe mercy, I realized that mercy is much more than that. Just like that when I spoke on meekness, that meekness is much more than just humility. And we talked about all the other aspects and components of meekness. I'm going to be talking about all the components of mercy. I would say this, that I've in my life made a distinguishing and tried to separate grace from mercy. Grace being gifts that God gives that we don't deserve. Mercy being punishment that God withholds for things we do deserve. But when I realized how merciful was so much more than just that, I started to realize that grace and mercy are twin sisters, and that to distinguish them, you have to look very closely at them. It was just something God gave me this morning outside as the sun was going up, that grace and mercy are twin sisters, identical twins. But that to distinguish the difference, which there is, the way to do that is to look at them very closely, and then you'll see that there's some slight differences between them. But they're both very similar. When I lived in Andover, there was a section in my backyard, and this was going back 12 years ago, up to 20 years ago when my daughter was first born, my oldest. The very corner, without fail, there was a section on the grass at the edge of the forest that in March, whether there was snow on the ground still, whether there was cold air still in the air, these little violets would pop through the grass. They're incredible. You could break them with your finger, and yet they would somehow weather the coldest of things. I want you to think about mercy as being something like that. Sin is a thing of old. Sin is always something we did, past tense, but it's confined to time. And mercy is everlasting. Mercy is greater than sin. Sin may be yesterday, but mercy goes back to eternity. Why is mercy eternal? Mercy is eternal because it's an attribute of God. So if it's an attribute of God, it has to be eternal. There can be nothing that time or the new heaven and new earth can wipe away the idea of mercy. And when I was looking at this word, merciful, I like to break them up into what the compound word was. It's mercy, full, or full mercy. It's not a little mercy. I'll show them a little mercy. I'll give that person a little chance, then that's it. I'll do it for a little while, and then that's it. Now it's time. Merciful, full time, full measure, not just a little. These are the attributes that I got with mercy. Mercy. I'll go slow, but I'm going to go over each one afterwards. Kindness. Generosity. An eager eye. To overlook. That's to overlook an insult to you. Compassion. Not a fault finder. That's in other people. And not over expectation. So mercy has 7 qualities. Kindness, generosity, an eager eye. It overlooks. Compassionate, not a fault finder, and not over expectation. What do these mean? Well, when you talk about the mercy that Jesus uses here, it's not just that you're ready to slam the person like a bug and you don't do it. And you remain heartless, but that you are kind to other people. This whole idea of every step in the ladder of the Beatitudes is based on grace. But if we're going to talk about mercy, we have to talk about being kind to people. Just being kind to people. That starts with the poor. No merciful person can be unsympathetic to people less fortunate than themselves. Full stop. You can talk about all the grace and all the things God did and all the gifts you have and the Holy Spirit and this and that thing in your life and all these blessings. We need to show mercy. That's not a warm, fuzzy feeling that we have. This is literally something that we do. It's a verb. It's an action to be kind. I realize that with kindness and generosity, I put them together because they're really intertwined. If you're going to speak about kindness to the poor, you can't just talk about that you have these feelings where you feel bad for them and then you go to bed and you go back out and you just do your thing. You have to actually do something. It's interesting. The 3:16s, of course, the most famous verse in the Bible is John 3:16. Do you know what 1 John 3:16 is? It's a close second here. This is how we know what love is. Well, the world needs to know this one. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. Bonus, verse 17. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother and sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? How can it be? How can it be? That's 1 John 3:16 and 17. And so you're already almost there, being able to remember the verse because it's easy to remember. 3:16. But this is how we know what love is. Because the world doesn't know what love is, and love is thrown around, and they have no idea what love is. But Jesus showed us when he laid down his life for us. So we should lay down our life for other people. Merciful people are kind people. Merciful people are generous people. Yes, you could say, well, we always have the poor with us. That's what Jesus said at one point. But that's because this is Christ's legacy to us. Did you catch that? This is our inheritance in Christ, is that we get to be a blessing to other people. We get to serve, we get to give, we get to love other people. This is it. It is more blessed to give than receive. These are in red. These are Jesus' words. Ironically, in the Acts of the Apostle, they're not in the Gospels, but they were his words, and the Holy Spirit made sure they were captured when Paul spoke them in the Acts of the Apostles. That is what Jesus said. And so I just say, be generous. Remember the poor. Think about other people who have things that you don't have. If you happen to be in a situation where you are well off, where something is going well, remember the poor. If you happen to not be in a situation where things are working out for you, remember the poor. If you happen to be in good health, remember those who aren't. If you happen to be in not good health, remember those who aren't. They're just things that are universal principles that we can do. This is what he gives us. He wants us to be merciful. He wants us to be generous. I can't emphasize this enough, that this is a core principle of Fusion Church. The mercy of God, the mercy in our life. We care because he cared for us. We give because he laid down his life for us. How could the love of God be in this church if that isn't evident in this church? And so these type of verses and this type of motto, this is what we stand for. What is our church about? 1 John 3. If someone asks you, what is Fusion Church? Say 1 John 3:16 and 17. Oh, I know that God so loved the world. No, it's this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay our lives down for our brothers and sisters. Have we done this? Have you done it? Have I done it? Have we sacrificed one thing this week for anyone but ourselves? Just one thing. Just everyone stop. Second point, the eager eye. A merciful person has an eager eye. There's something people call situational awareness. The Jason Bourne thing of, I know where the doors are. I realize that this guy parked here. This person was following me, the fictional character. Well, there's a possibility of having spiritual awareness. An eager eye. The merciful person just is heads up, pays attention. The merciful person is always ready for what God would have them do next. You could just be, remember this, the Beatitudes. These are the attitudes that we have when we are human beings, when we are living, when we are talking, when we are working. Just that heads up. Like, oh, this person came to me for this. They want to just return their shirt because they had this or that situation happen, or this person called me for customer service, or this person walked into my life for this. But I am so heads up that I realize that this person looks like that they're having a really bad day. And do you mind if I pray with you? Do you mind if I talk to you? That's what I mean by an eager eye. The merciful person is not like a drone bee that just buzzes around and doesn't pay attention to anything but what it was programmed to do. People who have a depressed spirit, who are carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders, are all among us. And some of you and some of me and people we know that are close to us deal with this. Be merciful to them. For some people, every month is December. Every day is cloudy. Be merciful to them. If you don't struggle with that, be merciful to them. If you do struggle with that, be merciful to them. The fourth trait of the merciful is that they overlook an insult, a dig. I call it the duck back. The duck back. Now, what am I talking about? Well, for the last 4 years in my backyard at the swimming pool, for some reason, every spring these two ducks come and hang out, and they're in the swimming pool. They're the first ones in every year. And they hang out for quite a while, and if somebody else kind of comes by, they quack at them like, this is my swimming pool. But it's always amazing to me that they dive in and swim around and frolic and hang out. And when they get out, they look perfectly dry. You ever notice that? They just fly away. Penny, our golden retriever, jumps into that thing. That dog is soaked. That dog looks like it's been through a blizzard and just completely destroyed. The coat is just completely, it must weigh 5 pounds. Completely waterlogged. The second the dog goes in, the duck comes out, looks like, I don't need a towel. I'm good. So I had to look it up last night. Why do ducks not look wet when they come out of the water? And that must be where the expression is, let the water run off your back like a duck's back. And that's where it comes from. So it turns out that a duck's feathers are hydrophobic. For those who skipped chemistry or didn't take it, hydrophobic means they have a fear of water. They repel water. And then the duck's feathers on top of that have an oil, and we know that oil doesn't mix with water, and the oil is on the feathers. And then the duck's feathers have multiple layers, so even if it penetrates the first, you're not penetrating the second. And what does this say to me? But this is who we are to be as merciful people. Somebody says something about you, let it roll off your back like a duck. It doesn't have to take in there and stick onto you unless you let it. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. I had an interesting situation last week where a surgeon at another hospital in Boston happened to be talking to one of my friends about me as a surgeon and said that I don't operate, that I'm a surgeon who doesn't do surgery. And other than that it's funny because I did 700 surgeries last year, I said, is this something that's going to irritate me or upset me or make me need to explain myself? Or is this not the blessing of God that you could be in a place where you could be busy but in relative obscurity? Where you could say that, wow, that means this surgeon in Boston does not see my complications because they don't get sent down there. Enough so that he thinks I don't operate. You see, there's two different ways of taking a lot of comments about you. One is, that's an insult. Another is, you meant it for bad, but God meant it for good. And so I'm just going to let that run off my back. I'm going to overlook that. And I'm going to put on my duck feathers and that oil of the Holy Spirit. It's going to let that just slip away and let it go. So that's a real expression, the kind of water rolling off the duck's back. And let that be the case here, that the merciful among us, that we would just let it roll off and let it go. Because, if you just lash back, you just have to say, did God ever talk to you that way? Did God ever talk to you that way? You see, each one of us here, I would wish on you, in a spiritual sense only, that you would have a blind eye and a blind ear. Now, as I'm starting to lose my hearing a little bit, I find myself leaning in, turning my ear to somebody to hear sometimes. But when somebody has pure negativity for you, what I advise you to do is take that deaf ear, turn it. What was that? Okay. What was that? Couldn't. Okay. Didn't hear that. The blind eye? Didn't see a thing. I'm talking about overlooking when somebody is insulting you, when somebody is speaking negatively to you. Use the blind eye and the deaf ear. Just do it. You just let it go. You let it go. And you know what? They'll be much more apt to feel bad for what they did when you don't have an answer back for them. When they post it on social media, my family does this, directed at you, or this or that, versus that you then come back and broadcast it on social media back at them. Well, let me tell you this, that now all of a sudden the entire family or the entire church or work or wherever you are is completely involved in this situation. And it's completely blown up, and now it's not going away. And God is dishonored when that happens. Blessed are the merciful. Kindness, generosity, an eager eye, and overlooking, water going off the back. And then there's compassionate or pity. Do you have pity for people who are really deep in sin? Who are attacking the church? Who are attacking the Bible? Who are attacking Jesus or attacking you for believing in Jesus? To have compassion for these people. How bad they must feel. You ever been really angry? Anyone here, I guess? Oh, okay. Is that 99% what's happening on the outside or 99% what's happening on the inside? Is it what's happening on the outside getting in or what's happening on the inside getting out? When I see a sore on a foot over a bone, people don't understand many times the bone is infected and it's trying to get out. It's not the disease is out there trying to get in. And that's why it won't heal. The problem is on the inside. And so, if there's something inside that people are a certain way, think what they must be experiencing inside themselves to be that way. To have that vitriol, to have that just foul taste in their mouth means they must have it in their stomach, in their heart. Have pity on them. I don't know. It's just many times when you see people, I don't know, protesters or this or that cause, they just look like miserable people. Just miserable people. Have mercy on them. Compassionate. Pity. Remembering, but by the grace of God, there you go also. None of these things you're above. None of these things you're not capable. None of these things you're incapable of. Put in a different family. Put in a different circumstance in your life. If you were raised in the home they were raised in, you might be twice the son of the devil. You understand that? It's the grace of God, where you are, not just what he's done in your life, but things that happened in people around you. Be compassionate with people. This ties into the next one, not a fault finder. A fault finder is somebody who's I don't know if they use this expression anymore. It's called nitpicky. So a nitpicker means somebody who just picks apart somebody else, every last little thing about them. It actually, when I was younger and we worked with a lot of kids and would send them to camp, when they went up to this camp, there was a nurse there that would check the kid's head, and a good chunk of them would have lice in their hair. And this has happened to my daughters many times and to these kids. And given the fact that they would be sent back and they'd be crying and upset, and there are two adults in my family, myself and my wife, and there's only one of us that has any chance of getting lice themselves based on the fact that they would starve on this head. I had the honor of getting the lice out of these girls' heads. And I spent many hours and even sleepless nights picking lice out of people's heads. And I've done that many, many times. And one thing I can tell you is first of all, forget about the rid, because that doesn't work. Ironically, get ivermectin. That you can put in a kid's hair and it will kill the thing. But even after you do that, and you think you're good, you know that nurse is going to grab that kid and look closely at the head. So after you've showered, done that so many times and everything, and combed with this, you want to talk about a fine-tooth comb, you're literally ripping the hair out of their head to get through it. And then after all that's done, you sit there and you have to pick these things out. And these things are small. You can see them, but they're small and they don't want to give up, the ghost. And so you have to pick them out one at a time in the end. And that's it. That's how it is. That's what a nitpicker is. That's where it comes from. Apply that spiritually to somebody. Don't exacerbate people. Don't exacerbate your kids. Don't exacerbate them, meaning don't nitpick them to death. Why do you do that? Why do you dress like that? Why do you talk like that? Look at you. You look sloppy. You shouldn't wear that. Nitpick all the time. A merciful person does not nitpick. The nitpicker looks at the sun and says, that sun has spots on it. Look at that moon. It's all craters. Look at this. Look at that. You know what I'm saying? That's just, it has spots on it, but we'd all be dead without it. I mean, maybe if it didn't have the spots, it'd be too hot. It's just perfect the way God has it. And so accept it. We have our idiosyncrasies. I have mine. Have you ever met anyone that did anything in their life that doesn't have idiosyncrasies? I'm just saying. I mean, I don't care, just not even spiritually. Just, I don't know, Elon Musk or something, the guy, when you listen to the guy talk, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy, he can just sound crazy, but there's a man on the moon or this or that, or they using him to rescue people right now that are stuck in space or something. He's not my hero. Jesus Christ is. I'm just giving the example of just somebody who has idiosyncrasies. Do you follow me? And so, accept that about each other here. I happen to have a lot of them, so what is a friend, right? But somebody who knows your idiosyncrasies and is friends with you. And I'm going to say something. I don't know if this is completely true, but I think this is something that's a bigger problem in women, and I'll dodge the tomatoes that are thrown at me right now. Generally, guys that are friends with each other shrug their shoulders about something about another friend. That's just Gordon, you know. But I think women might be harder on each other, especially with appearance now, especially with things that they may not even have any control over, or dress or whatever. And so don't be a nitpicker. It's such a good word, because who wants to be one of those? The word sounds terrible, you know? I mean, it's like almost sounds like a nose picker there. And then the last one is not over expectation. Merciful people do not have over expectation. What does that mean? Again, it's with children, it's with people who are in a hard way. It's maybe somebody, if you have somebody who works for you or works with you, and you just have over expectation of them. You're never satisfied enough. You feel like that waitress or waiter, didn't do exactly what you wanted here. I'm going to withhold the tip. Well, do you know that they're making peanuts if they don't get tips? That they can't possibly have a livable wage without that tip? And what fault is it of the waitress that the cook did something that, wasn't exactly what you asked? I mean, come on. It's a $10 burger, like, you're not at the Four Seasons here. You don't have, the brother here, cooking at the top hotel for you. Like, give them some slack. Don't if you want, have Josh invite you to the Four Seasons, and you can, get breakfast and pay $300, And then they probably, the tip is already built into that. And 20% of that is $60. So, these were just some of the things. Isn't mercy beautiful? I wanted to read something. I don't read things that often, because it's just like, especially it's hard on the translators, but this is beautiful. I read this on the Bible Hub app on just a commentator said this. Merciful, then, is a quality of the whole nature, a certain soft, sweet, tender, gentle, gracious atmosphere in which the whole man lives and breathes, in which he continually acts towards injury and wrong. And under its warm and sunny rays, injury and wrong melt away day by day, like icebergs that come floating down into a tropical stream. And those are blessed who have it. They live in soft sunshine of their own making, and in all the simple charities of life, which are like the common flowers that adorn and make sweet the woods and fields, flourish until the whole world rejoices in the life for those who live by mercy. And their speech is delightful as the song of birds, and their daily acts like the soft murmur of such streams as gently flow through meadows. In all this inward beauty of soul, they are blessed indeed, for mercy blesses those who give it. The contagiousness of mercy, it will run through a family. You'll see it in a mother and then a daughter. It will spread to people around it. Even pets are affected by it. I think so. That may be crazy, but I think maybe not cats. Cats are I'm working on this sermon this morning. I'm watching the sun go up. I'm in my backyard. I'm thinking about being kind to animals, and a cat shows up in the backyard. I mean, God, that's too much to ask right now. So I didn't run and scare it away and told the cat, you're lucky I'm preaching on this today. But there can't be the love of God in the heart of anybody who's cruel to a pet, to an animal. I mean, it just can't. I just can't see it. I mean, you should see something about the nature of who you are, even in your pets. We'll get the worship team up. But the ultimate thing that Jesus said, blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. The reward of mercy is mercy. The reward of mercy is mercy. It's true in this world. If you have a soft answer, if you're gentle, if you don't fight back, when something happens to you, you pass away or something, people will just say, that person right there. Roger Cook died on this old house. He's from this area. He was the landscaper on this old house. Who could say something bad about somebody that taught you how to take care of your garden? You know, what bad thing was there? I met him in person once, and he was who he was on the show. I don't know where he is with God, and I'm not here to talk about any person in any way like that ever. But if something befalls somebody who's been a more merciful person, other people will say, we are sorry for them. We feel sorry for them because of the nature of that person. And so what we see here is the second that Jesus talks about justice and righteousness, mercy is right there. And I've shared this before, but it is just too good to not share, maybe every week. When you talk about the justice of God, and you talk about the fact that the sin of mankind must be paid for, you have in the right hand of God, you have God's righteousness, his holy anger, his justice, and his need for holiness. And then you have in the left hand of God his mercy and his grace. And these two attributes of God, which seem to be against each other, unreconciled. And if justice wins, then mercy loses. And if mercy wins, then justice loses. And that would be thought to be the case until we came to Jesus. And when Jesus came and he lived the sinless life, the perfect sacrifice for our sins was found. And if you could imagine, because justice and mercy, if you think about these, you can't help but think about a court of law. And you can't help but think about that there is Jesus on the throne, and Jesus is up high like a judge would be. And he's got the hammer because he was a carpenter, but he's got the robes as the justice. And then you have the person, let's say the sinner like me and you. And you have over here the prosecutor or Lucifer, Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call him. And the devil presents a picture-perfect case of guilt and points to chapter, verse of every area where we've sinned in our life. And on our response back to him, we have nothing we can answer about that. And the wages of sin is death. And the punishment for this sin can be nothing less than complete separation for God from all eternity. And when it comes time for the justice to be meted out, the judge, Jesus, takes off his robe, steps down from the throne, moves us aside, and says, this requires the punishment of death, and I accept the punishment in this person's place. I accept it. I take it. And on the cross, the Father poured out all the sin of every one of us, none greater than mine, on Jesus. that mercy, who had been veiled for so long, who was leaning and waiting for when he said, "It is finished," and the veil was torn in two, and mercy came running, and her veil was removed, and the mercy just flowed, and all of us could see that on the cross, the justice of God and the righteousness of God on one hand, and the mercy of God and the grace of God kissed at the cross. Both were satisfied, and both were, as they've always been, at peace with each other. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall be shown mercy. And if you need mercy,